What's up, guys? Welcome to the Lore Reloaded. Hey, don't forget to check me out at twitter.com/Lore Reloaded and twitch.tv/Lore Reloaded. Sorry, I'm not feeling the best, so I got a throat thing going on. So I may not sound as beautiful as I usually do. Today we'll be talking about Star Trek Picard Absolute Candor, and I'm going to be having a lot of fun with it. Just really enjoying it. Let me mute that. And just for those who know, this will be spoilers as we go through all of it. Let's see. We got, of course, Gold Robin in his house, of course. Andy Hughes, MB and TR. What's going on? Always a party when MB and TR. Hope my voice is okay. I like to breathe into the mic. I don't like that, so I'm trying to keep it a little bit further away. If that's an issue, let me know. Let me check some stuff here. Just got done seeing it. You know, what's interesting to me about all of this is the a lot of people get upset because they say it's slow, that it's not moving fast enough. But I wonder if they remember what TNG was. TNG was very, very excessively slow. I mean, just beyond reproach slow in my mind. And, I mean, there were adventures and there were action at some points. But for the most part, a lot of it was talking, a lot of it was diplomacy, a lot of it was coming together and trying to work things out from a cerebral standpoint. So when people look at or when people try to break down Picard and say that it's just not the next generation, I just don't think they're right. Most people remember, like, Best of Both Worlds. Or they remember the fights with Tomalak or Sela. But that wasn't the majority of TNG. TNG always was on the slower end. Now, one of the difference here is we're not on a ship a lot. In fact, we're mostly on planets. And so that could be impactful. What's going on, Yosef? Put it on the makeup. Do not hide in the darkness. I shall put it in makeup. I'm not dark, am I? I don't think. Is it a little dark? Doesn't look dark. I can adjust that, though, if you want me to. I've been trying to enjoy Picard. I certainly don't have many complaints. I can't attribute to a show being in its early days, but I also can't shake the feeling that the other foot is going to drop. It's 40% through, so Season 1 is 40% done. We're almost halfway through this journey for Season 1. So, you know, you really got to take of that what you will. Let's, let me pull this up and do this appropriately. All right, so we're going to start getting into spoilers. I'm not sure why you guys can't see that. No, you can. So for those who are concerned, you know, there's that. I'm also starting very early. I don't know if a lot of people are going to be here. I really like the theme tune. I can't say that I can say that for it. I don't like the intro. I don't like the title sequence. I haven't really watched it since I've gone through my breakdown of title sequences, but I really can't get into it. All right. So this is happening 14 years ago when we start the episode. Some of it, I can see where it can be fourth wall breaking. Unfortunately, Picard's not getting any younger. And so, and I forget how old he is. Is he in his 90s? It's really hard to hide someone who has gotten to the end of his life like he has. And so they're trying to portray him very young. Well, very being relative. A decade and a half younger than he is. And I don't think they pull it off. You really do have to use your imagination. But it happened 14 years ago. They're trying to save the Romulans. They're going through the relocation pieces. That's actually one of these planets that we see where they were relocated. It's in the Beta Quadrant. I'm assuming this is Romulan space or on the border. It may actually tell us, but I honestly can't be sure. And maybe I missed it when watching it. But yeah, this is the planet Vashti in the Beta Quadrant. It's not Federation space, I don't think. Because if it is in the future, that's going to have some devastating impacts. But it's either on the border or still Romulan space to some degree. It then takes us to see the actual outpost in and of itself. Again, it's the Romulan relocation hub 14 years ago. Starfleet is deep within trying to help people building the settlement, getting them out of the blast radius. And so this is where we see Picard. One thing I do want to note that keeps coming up, and I don't know if they keep doing it just as a form of repetition or to say, hey, these are Romulans and Romulans have an ancestry with Vulcans, but we keep seeing this specific prop, I guess is a word. I want to say iconography, but I don't think that's appropriate. And again, that's either going to come back or they're really just trying to bring it over and over and over. Fernando says disco shuttles everywhere. Actually, those weren't all disco shuttles. Some of them were, in fact, upgraded TNG shuttles. One thing I'll say about Discovery that no one does seem to be talking about, they are using different kinds of shuttles like everywhere. I've seen DS9 themed shuttles. I've seen TNG shuttles. There are a lot of Discovery shuttles, I'll grant that, but it's not like necessarily everywhere. I don't know that I would agree with that. Moving back, we actually see Picard arrive within the relocation center itself. This confused me a little bit. Yeah, Yosef, I'm not surprised it's not sending out updates. He arrives in, I don't know, I guess his baller clothes. I don't know why he doesn't have his pimp cane with him. You do see that he has the Starfleet insignia. I'm not completely sure why he's not showing up in actual Starfleet clothing. He's obviously there on business because he does talk to them about the relocation and how things are happening. Maybe it's to make them feel better. Maybe it's to, I guess, come together with them. It was... I really don't think it was consistent with how Starfleet operates. And I do think it's a nitpick, but it is kind of a continuity breaking deal. He should have showed up in his actual uniform, at least in my opinion. Every time they've done something like this, they've always been in their Starfleet uniforms. I mean, 100% always showing up. Looks like the man from Del Monte, the plantation. That's horrible. You're a bad person. All right. Then, again, we get just more scenes. It kind of looks beautiful. Looks very Romulan-esque. I'll give them that. It has a Romulan feel to me. And a Western one, to a degree. I don't know. They're really pushing the elven theme, though, with all of the trees and everything. They're really wanting Legolas to exist. So then he meets the Warrior Sisters, a group of clandestine Romulans that train to be assassins and will then put their efforts towards your cause if it's absolutely hopeless. An interesting thing, by the way, on Twitter, when these images first came out, she looks a lot like, who was it? Give me a second. She looks a lot like a Jedi from Clone Wars. I forget her name, but the Jedi had an apprentice that went rogue and tried to blame Ahsoka for a murder. I forget who it was. I forget her name. I want to say Ulfi, but I think maybe that was her. I think that was the Padawan. I don't think that was her. But anyway, she reminded me of a Star Wars character, which I showed that Star Wars character. And on Twitter, I was called a racist. God bless Twitter. Just God bless it. Anyway, back to Warrior Nuns from the Romulans. I don't know how I feel about this. I'm honestly kind of ambivalent to Romulan assassins. We know a bit about Romulan culture, but we don't know everything about them. So if this is something that they might do, I guess it fits the motif. I'm trying to think it through in my mind. I guess it fits the motif simply because assassins more work in the shadows and they gain information and they wait. So I don't. I guess I see that. I don't know. I'd be curious about your guys' opinions. Dan23 doesn't look futuristic. Now, Luminaria, that was who she looks like. So the Star Wars character is Luminari Unduli. She looks exactly like her, in my opinion, without the tattoos. So, you were saying it doesn't look futuristic. Let's discuss that a second. In story, that makes sense. In story, it not being futuristic is consistent. And I guess one of the things, a lot of people, I get into arguments with people who don't like Picard, discussions, who don't like Picard, is that, interestingly, everything that we see, it seems like it makes sense for the universe and why they're there. So it doesn't look futuristic. It wouldn't. They're trying to save hundreds of thousands to millions of Romulans. And what they're doing is they're grabbing all the Romulans they can and putting them on a planet to get them out of the way. Then they're trying to give them resources to help them rebuild. And that's what they're doing. Rinse and repeat. You can't have fancy technology when you're trying to save hundreds of millions of people, right? So it makes sense that it doesn't look futuristic. It wouldn't be. That said, people who watch Star Trek remember, the Next Generation. They remember the original series. They remember the Next Generation. They remember Deep Space Nine, Voyager, even Discovery. All of this has big, shiny technological feats, things flashing everywhere. And so, while it makes sense in the story, which is what I was focused on, the fact that people get upset because it's not what they've seen before, and it's not like, I guess as futuristic as people remember Trek being, I think that's a legitimate complaint. At first, I kind of fought back, because again, all I really focused on was the story, but if you're going to say, hey, yeah, it makes sense in the story, but that's not Trek. Trek was never about this low yield, low technological worlds. Okay, I think that's fair. And like MBNTR, I haven't read all of it, but that looks like it might be. Picard is Star Trek without the star part. They should call it Trek Picard. Yeah, I think that's fair for right now. I really do. Spoilers, but I think the best way to describe the Sisterhood group is a patron saint warrior monks for lost causes. Yeah, I mean, that's what they are. Anyway, that's Kid Legless. By the way, I'll be stopping to look at your guys' opinions on this. I apologize for if I come off low energy or my voice. I'm not feeling the best, but I did want to get this out of the way. I also have a cat that just wants to be loved on and is making my life super, super easy. Let me just get that out of the way right now. Like, super easy. One thing I do enjoy, and we're going to come up on it in just a second. Hold on, I'm trying to pull it up. One thing I do enjoy is kind of the back and forth between the sisters as well as Picard and even the child. So Picard, another change is that Picard seems very at ease with the kid. And they even do a callback to TNG saying that, he was a busy guy. He doesn't like children all that much, yada, yada, yada. And now he does seem to actually enjoy kids. He doesn't seem to be uncomfortable with them at all, which is a massive change for Picard. But it is one that, in fact, makes sense. At the end of TNG, his arc completely changes, right? He lets people in and starts taking people he's kept at a professional distance. He starts making them family, playing poker with them. And so the natural progression of that would be him becoming more comfortable with kids. And so I don't really hate that. It is a drastic change from what we saw in TNG, but I think it was a natural one, unlike what we'll see with 7 of 9. Also, I like the Sisterhood because they do some of the things they talk about with Picard seems very Romulan and gives more insight into the Romulan culture. You might try to argue that it's the Sisterhood's motto, but I really think it's more Romulan than anything else. For instance, Picard makes some promises, and one of the sisters points out, promises are a prison. You shouldn't make promises. That seems very Romulan. Seems very secretive. It seems like something you'd see them say, even in the Next Generation. By the way, 53 people watching, only 13 likes. What's up with that? Hit that like button, people. Something to going back. Inferi 4 says that. Inferi 4 says, where is it? Trek has often portrayed low-tech colonies or contacts in every series. Adding these were refugees all but abandoned by the Federation after evacuation. So they have, but in those episodes, generally you've also had high tech. I think you'd be very pressed to find episodes. I think you could probably find on one. I think you could probably count on one hand the amount that didn't have advanced technology in one way or another. And DS9 probably did that more than any of the others, I think. Another interesting thing that they discussed was he brought the Three Musketeers for Kid Legolas so that he could read to him, which is intriguing. I really don't know what to make of that. But anyway. Let's see. Let's get it moving in here. Sorry, guys, my throat's killing me. So, he's teaching Kid Legolas how to fence, because in the last series, Picard fenced, so it may be something that Sir Patrick Stewart likes too. Not a lot to add here. He does learn of the synth attack on Mars. Again, this is 14 years ago, right? And he says they're still going to help out, and they're going to do everything they can to assist them. And, of course, he leaves and never returns, at least not for a long, long time. Not a ton to add here. This is still, honestly, build-up. It really is. I do like how everything looks in the background, though. Everything seems... I just like this scene set. I think it's very intriguing, and it kind of opens things up. I don't know. Here's him leaving, doing the let's pray to Jesus before we go action. I'm sure we're going to see 1,000 freaking times. And then, and now we're in current stardate. Current year, as it were. Some character building between these two. So we got Captain Manspreader. And we also got, of course, Star Trek's Kaylee. And really, it's just character building to be character building. She is annoying him. She is surprised that space is so big and there's not a lot to do. And he's reading a book that talks about the fact that we're aware we're going to die, which is interesting. That actually made me like him, because that's something I've explored too. I think one of the cruelest fates of our species, and something that has probably fatally caused us to... fatally inhibited us, is that we're aware that we are going to die. And I think that has caused us to make some decisions and to build some infrastructures that has been detrimental to society. And so the trope here is they're going with the common tropes. You have the comedy relief. She's, brilliant, but she's quirky. And then you have the brooding warrior who's cerebral. Not a ton to add to that, to be honest. I wish there was more, but there's really not. One thing I have noticed that I will say is a lot of the effects And I don't know if this is done on purpose or if this is done because of the type of software they're using. Everything's white. Like the transporters are all white. A lot of the effects for warp are white. Nothing but plain white lighting here. The lighting's not bad, by the way. A lot of people said there has been some complaints about the lighting. This is actually how lighting is supposed to be. TNG lighting, DS9 lighting was very hard. It was not cinematic at all. It was done on the cheap. If you want to do good lighting, you're supposed to have shadow. It's not supposed to be all whited out. That's not how this is supposed to be done. Dude, Lord, be careful with your throat. Don't go too long if you're not feeling well. We all got to work, Matthew. We all got to work. I won't be doing anything else today. I'm actually going to the doctor after this. But I got to make money like everybody else, buddy. But I'm with you. Everyone is getting cold lately. Sheesh, hope you get well. Yeah, I mean, it's going around. All right. I'm sure they're going to have some sort of relationship. They're building that up. I think we even see him kiss, and you see this... you see this happening. Now, here's something that's clever. I don't know how I feel. Again, it goes back to the fact that it's not futuristic. They're not trying to have these sets with a lot of LEDs or a lot of technology. But this is technically in a holodeck, which is interesting that now even civilian ships have holodeck technology. It seemed pretty non-standard. It seems like something that not a lot of ships that weren't backed by huge organizations would have. But apparently civilian ships have them now. What I like about this is the fact that it is a clever way to use this set. I know this isn't what you guys are coming for. You're more here for the lore, not necessarily my admiration of how well the production is done here. But I actually do like that they found a way to keep this set because it's a way of saving money so they can spend it on other stuff. So anyway, this is a reproduction of the Vineyard. Interestingly, there is one thing that doesn't make a lot of sense to this, though. I'll say this. He constantly talked about on Earth how he wasn't meant to be there, how he went there to die, and how he wanted to go back into the stars. But now he sits in a holodeck. Now he sits in a holodeck in his vineyard. You could say it's just a gaffe, people not thinking things through. If we tried to really break down, I don't know. It feels like a stretch, but we could try to say maybe he's still caught between the two. He wants to be in the stars, but he knows he's not supposed to be, or he knows that it's not his place anymore. The other thing to this is... the other thing that's interesting to this is there in the dialogue throughout the episode, there are starting to get more and more hints. And if you're not looking for it, you'll miss it. Where it's talking about how long he's going to be there, his mortality. And I don't know if that's going to pop up at the end of the season or maybe the end of the series. But the fact that he's not long for this universe is coming up and cropping up more and more. So there is also an interesting thing. Well, it doesn't matter. That was just one person. Again, the lighting is done well. I also like the hologram. I gotta say, I really like that actor. I like that he can do multiple characters. I like that hologram. It's a interesting way of doing things. And yeah, let's keep it moving, guys. I may try to do something later today too. I don't know. It depends on if I get medicine and I feel better. All right, so then Star Trek Zoe walks in. She's pretty pissed off. She's pissed off because... I don't know if that's happening or not. She's pissed off because Picard is wanting to do quite a few different things. At first, They were going to go to, what was it, free space or cloud space or whatever the hell it was called. And instead of going there, they are going to a different planet. And again, the mortality comes up. He's like, this may be my last chance. They're going back to what we saw 14 years ago. And there's arguments and discussions that I'm trying to think. This episode almost is filler to a degree. It's just trying to get one of the main cast onto the set. And so because of that, I guess there's not really a ton to add. Again, it's just showing the disagreement between Star Trek Zoe and Picard. The fact that they're not on the same page. He's wanting to do things. She's directly wanting to get it taken care of. Not a ton to add. Another interesting thing, I like how they hid the lights. So if you notice, look at that. Look at behind at the doors and everything. Oh my God, is that like the brightest sun on God's green? Natural light is not that intense unless the sun is just bearing down, which it was not before. So I love how they hid the lights there. I never realized how much schooling is impacting me. Taking a look at what you guys have to say, I did read somewhere that Patrick Stewart could be in this show for 3 years, and then if the show continued, he may not be in it. I wouldn't be surprised by that. I don't like her and goes from screaming to almost having a rational conversation. I don't like her. Oh, you're talking about Zoe. Raffi is her actual name. 24th Century doesn't have radical life extension. Well, here's the thing. He's 90s in his... in the real world, but in continuity, isn't he like 120 or something like that? He's really old. Do not agree. Not filler. Story is developing step by step. Nah, I don't think so. There's no steps here that couldn't have been done a lot quicker and a lot easier and added a different story to it. I do think it is to a degree filler. I really, really do. Now, I'm going to be completely honest with you. This side story where he's banging an android, but he hates him and he's part of the Zhat Vash and yada, yada, I do not have any interest in this B-plot. I, in fact, skip some of it. This is boring as all hell to me. It is it's beyond boring. It is just stupid. It's not adding anything at all. And we get a little information. So here's the chick that we saw last time, and she's talking about the destroyer and whatnot, how she got these technologies. I'm not completely sure. But there's just nothing here. Stop. There's just nothing here that really adds to it for me. It's boring as all hell. It doesn't need to be there. It honestly, DS9 had really bad, like... A and B plots, like just horrifically so. And that's what this reminds me of. It's just a bad subplot that doesn't have any interest to me. So, they arrived to the planet that they were at 14 years ago, and obviously things have changed. A couple of interesting points here, and a couple of things that make me think it's not in Federation space. First off, the entire system, and I think maybe even the sector, has become a place for outlaws and gang members. And they even they give a name about someone who has an old style bird of prey. A Romulan bird of prey. I think it's a bird of prey. But an old style Romulan starship. And there's some jokes there because Picard didn't mention it to anybody else. Bada bada bada. But it's intriguing to see that this has fallen into disrepair and that it's a place of disrepute. We're going to talk about it a little more in the future, but let's dive in there a bit. Sir Patrick Stewart said that this was going to be discussing Brexit to a degree. I am interested in British politics, and I actually watch like the debates by the MPs and stuff, and have watched Brexit curiously. But I don't live there. And while I know there are issues with immigration, that was one of the key problems. I don't have a lived experience, so I can't really speak to it. intriguingly, I think this was trying to make an allusion to the immigrants that are coming over into Britain, and that how they're disenfranchised and they're causing a lot of issues because now you have a place that's unsafe, a zone, if you will, for those who remember crime zones or red zones or whatever that the law just doesn't go into. What I like about it is if that's what they were going for, that's the type of politics I actually think can be discussed or can be delved into. This is traditional Trek writing using politics, but trying to give a side and maybe even biased side, but not shoving it in your face. This is not... Discovery could not have done this. And so I think that's interesting to at least discuss or at least think about, you know? By the way, 70 people watching, only 26 likes. Don't be scared. That like is more scared of you than you're of it. Hit it. Just stroke it. Stroke it like it's hot. The interesting thing is the planet was left to fend for itself. Starfleet just pulled out. And so they decided to, try to take care of themselves. They got their own planetary system, planetary defense net, which it's cool to see planets with planetary defense nets. It's rudimentary, but effective. It'll defend them, but, it was not put together by an advanced civilization or Starfleet. So it's intriguing, and it's something you would see in a lawless territory, a lawless zone, right? Of course, Picard comes there and he expects everyone to love him for some reason, and they don't, which speaks to Picard's ego to a degree. He even says, tell him I'm here, and they are not impressed. So, yeah, I mean, I don't hate this again. I think this is intriguing. If it's in Federation space, I have quite a few issues with it, but I don't think it is. It's also the Beta Quadrant. A lot of people get so confused thinking that you never see the Beta Quadrant, but you do. It's as much as the Alpha Quadrant is. Let's see. Okay, wild speculation, but maybe all Picard needs is to spend a night in a Borg alcove. Now I need to rewatch the TNG episode to double check, but did Beverly fully remove the Borg nanites from Picard? I think they tried to remove all of them. Yeah. Nope, Matthew. No, Matthew, that's actually a very rudimentary and naive position on why Brexit passed. And probably one of the reasons Brexit did pass, because I'm sure there are a lot of people who have that opinion. All right. Well, don't want to play this, because the last thing I need is CBS coming after me. All right, so you had Picard arrive. We have that scene played again, but the place is now it's completely different, right? It's run down. It's not taken care of. These people had to fend for themselves, and they didn't really have a lot to do so. And you can just see the decay. Kind of tropish, kind of, something that you saw coming. But it's at least interesting. There was an interesting place here. Man, Jessie said something. I'd love to have her on to have a discussion. Unless she's mad at me and hates me now. But, let me see. If I can see it. I don't think we can see it. There was something that I found intriguing. There it is. So, he arrives. You see in this town now there's a Romulans only place there. It shows they've become more secular, more racist, more downtrodden. In a dangerous place. Again, it's an interesting look at immigration, if that's what they're trying to do. And I don't want to get into the politics too much, but at least the conversation is being had where both sides, in my opinion, are presented here. So you have the Federation or Starfleet who saved these refugees, brought them over, dropped them off in the middle of somewhere, left them to do the best that they can. With no real support, they become disenfranchised. It becomes a dangerous area. And now you have both sides of the argument. That you bring immigrants over and it's dangerous because they become disenfranchised and it hurts society as a whole. But it was that way because the way it was handled was done poorly. So when Sir Patrick Stewart started talking about how it's going to be Brexit and how they were bringing politics in, I was worried because I was looking at the way they were going to do it with Discovery. I think that this is being done in an appropriate way here. And it's not something... Trek is at its best when it can discuss politics, but you don't even know it. And I think that's what this is doing. If you had no idea the behind the scenes, I think maybe you could see that. Now, let's say you guys are welcome to disagree with me on that, but that's at least the way I'm looking at it. I also don't want a argument on this. We're not here to discuss necessarily Brexit in and of itself, but it was supposed to be a part of this, which is why we're talking. But I don't want to discuss if Brexit was good or not. I just want to discuss how they handle it so that we're all clear. We also see something that I thought was really interesting. Where is it? There it is. Ah! I hate being sick. I can't stand it. Wait for it. You have these little badges, which are very alternate, very mirror universe, which I thought was really intriguing. I don't think they ever explained what it was either. He comes back. What I actually like about this is when he comes back to talk to the Sisterhood of Let's Kill Everyone. The Sisterhood of Death. They're not really mad at him. He abandoned them, and they have every right to be pissed off, but they're not. You know? They're very welcoming of him back, which there's a couple things to that that I really liked. First off, it goes against the trope, right? It goes against the fact that they have every right to be pissed off at him and don't want to help him. No, they're welcoming him in. Also, it comes off as a religious order. They're literally called nuns. And they're very forgiving of the fact that they were abandoned. I like that take on it. I like that. For those who don't know my history, when I was a Christian, I was very much on the passive side, the welcoming side, the forgiveness side. And I like to see that because I don't think Hollywood really portrays that all that much. I think that religion, whether I agree with it or not, gets a pretty bad shake, or has historically. And it feels like this was a good take on it. For me. LR, is it a plot hole that he didn't come back? It's not a plot hole that he didn't come back. They actually explain it in there, and I'm sorry if I haven't been clear about that. The synth attack happened while he was helping them out, and then everything was shut down. He said, and I guess I did miss that. So one of the things he begins talking about, and the sister actually calls him out on this, is the fact that she says, you abandoned us. You just stopped. And he admits that he couldn't get everything he wanted, so he just gave up. And he did actually abandon them, but it was because Starfleet gave up. He had the option of still continuing on, and he even says, I couldn't get perfect, so I wasn't going to settle for good. They're in their right to be pissed off at him. But again, the forgiveness and stuff. And it's really a look at Picard. I think that it is... I'm glad you brought that up, man. I would have missed that. I need to not be sick. it's an interesting character look into Picard, because that is Picard. Picard wants it done exceptionally well. He wants it done by the book. He's very Starfleet, and he wants to save everybody. He wants it perfect. He doesn't believe in the no-win scenario either, not really. But unlike Kirk, if he can't get his way, then he just gives up. And I don't know. Was there a lot of swearing in this? I don't remember a lot of swearing. I assume the badges were to do with Romulan revival movement they mentioned in passing. Yeah, I could see that. It's not good to hear swearing in a Star Trek show, Lee Johnson. Not at all. I'm sorry that you have that wrong opinion, but unfortunately, I can't correct it. Makes the change, Lee, as... Oh, I don't know what you guys are talking about. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry, there's something that came up. Picard wants perfection, and if he can't get it, him giving up actually does fill in character. I'll be honest with you. It seems like something that's consistent. So I don't hate that, necessarily. 70 people watching, only 35 likes? Why are you guys scared of likes? What is going on? Oh, all right. We then meet... Give me a second. Wait for it. We then meet Star Trek's Legolas. I cannot stand the fact that this is an elf. I hate that. I hate everything about it. Romulans aren't elves. They've never been... I understand that it's been an attack that was used by McCoy, but they've never really been presented as elves. So I hate the fact that this is Legolas. It literally is Legolas. And people are like, why don't we have Legolas in there? It's just so stupid. I don't like it. I can't stand it. I wish he wasn't Legolas. I don't necessarily hate the character. The character seems intriguing. This character is really how you're supposed to make characters, in my opinion, if you're going to make them pretty powerful. I mean, he's basically God with his sword. But he has flaws, character flaws. He's intrigued. A little bit tropish. He is a little bit tropish. The guardian that's willing to kill, that has to be held back by the mentor. That's a little overdone. But I don't know. I hate that he's an elf. But I don't hate the character. And yeah, especially to Dragon Sword, there is a point to being able to watch Star Trek with your 6-year-old child. My personal preference. It's not a personal preference. Trek is supposed to be a family show that has been enjoyed by everybody. You cannot watch Discovery with my family. My kids are not old enough. My child will be like 10 this month. She can't watch Star Trek Discovery. Can't do it. Can't do it. Implied sexual rape of a man, cursing everywhere, sex, mass genocide, on-screen mass genocide, death and destruction. Can't watch Star Trek Discovery unless you're a teenager. You can't. Picard has not there yet. I think you could watch it with kids. But they it's a bad idea. And then we have more of the B plot. I didn't watch the B plot. I skipped past all of this. I really don't care who she has sex with. I don't care. I don't care about this character. I don't care about this character right here. I don't care about you. Oh, wow. You fell in love with somebody, but you're the evil person trying to kill him. Fantastic. Why is it 20 minutes of that in my show? Can we get rid of that and put something interesting? This is like I forget the name of the episode, but where Nog was basically a beat cop and got upset at the Klingons because they were laughing too loudly. It's useless. It's a useless part of my Trek. The acting is fine, but it's absolutely, utterly just stupid and useless and dumb, and I hate it, and I wish they'd just get it out. It's not good writing. Star Trek is not a romance novel. It's not. Do your rom-com somewhere else. whoever wrote this B plot right here, you're a bad person and you should feel bad. You should feel bad about everything you do. In another part that's just absolutely stupid. Look. Watch. Hold on. Wait for it. I know you can't see it. I'm just waiting for them to go. They take off their shoes. They take off their shoes. And they slide down the hallway of a Borg cube. The Borg. The undefeatable. The worst enemy. The destroyer of the Alpha Quadrant. And you have a Zhat Vash agent. Someone who is supposed to stop the destroyer of worlds. Going down the hallway of a Borg cube in socks. Sliding down and having a fun time. Whoever wrote this is a bad person. I'm not saying that it's on par with the Nazis, but you gotta at least question and think about it. Gups says, welcome to the fandom menace. That's intriguing, Gups. Would you like to have that conversation? Or, because if you're inferring that I'm the fandom menace, I'm willing to bet you won't engage me on that. I am willing to have that conversation. Slide was kind of Slide was cringe. It was completely cringe. Every part of it was cringe. Bad person. Bad person. All right. Anyway, I honestly, and I think it was this. I wasn't really paying much attention before, but I think it was this. I was like, all right, done. Take me back to the actual good parts of the story. Yeah, I don't care about any of this. Oh, look, they're making out again too. Yay! No one cares. No one cares. All right, back to the good parts of the plot. It's a joke, my man. Oh, okay. Actually, Gups, believe it or not, I'm getting that a lot when I criticize stuff, and that's why I took it so seriously. I apologize. It's beyond just stupid. Whether I'm fandom menace or not, which I'm not. I'm not fandom menace. I'm not We Are Starfleet. The fact that people have to put others in a tribe and then try to ascribe them is just horrible. So, unlike what I did, where I said basically whoever wrote that romantic spot is a Nazi, because I'm right on that. People will say, well, you're Phantom Menace and you're X, or you're We Are Starfleet and you're Y. It's just so frustrating. I mean, the only time that's right is basically saying that Nazis wrote the scene where they're going down the hallway of a Borg cube in their socks. And I would agree with that. The Phantom Menace aren't always wrong. Anyway, so you have Picard on planet, right? And he's been identified. Intriguingly, apparently these ne'er-do-wells with Rafi have the ability to access and see all of the comm traffic of this colony. Two of them are former Starfleet officers. And the two of them, nor Picard, really question the fact that they're listening in on people's private conversations. That's just okay. That's very telling of Starfleet officers and the way Starfleet works. They completely and utterly would it have been better barefoot? I hate you, Ima. It's very telling how these people react and how Starfleet is just okay with just listening in. There is an interesting, a really good scene that I liked. Which is, oh, also, while they're looking at the comm chatter and whatnot, they then realize that. So they were talking about. Here's something I don't like because there's no depth added to it. So it's a lawless land, and there's this Romulan bird of prey. I think it's bird of prey, antique running around, and they mentioned some person, but we don't get any information or anything like that. Now, they'll probably come back up. They're probably going to be chased by them, but it's just I don't like it. It's just there was so much they could have cut so that they could add more depth and more world building, but they just decided not to, right? Oh, I didn't know that was playing. I'm about to get hit with a DMCA. All right, and so here we have them following and seeing the bird of prey. It's on its way. The pirates are on their way, right? And so Picard says, you guys have to deal with it, and he talks to Legolas. He talks Legolas into joining. Then we have a scene that I really do like. Let me see. I wanted Jesse to be on here because Jesse said something interesting that I don't know how I feel about that. Which was, so he sits down in a Romulans only white person, and then because of this, he's going to get into a fight where an actual black person or person of color dies. And the question was, how do people feel about that? I don't feel like that has any necessary impact. I'll also say this. He's sitting down in a Romulan only area, but it doesn't really he doesn't get in any trouble or any guff because he's not Romulan. He gets into a fight because he's Picard. So I don't really feel like there's any social commentary here necessarily. But if you guys but I'm open to being wrong on that or a disagreement on that. I think it's intriguing. The other piece, and I really did like this. So you see the guy on the right, basically a pirate or a vagabond, a ne'er-do-well, as they say in the French. He comes hard at Picard, right? And intriguingly, when he talks about his background, it's kind of eye-opening. And I wonder if it's not social commentary to a degree as well. He used to be a Romulan senator that was all for being saved by Starfleet. And then Starfleet brought them over and abandoned them. And he had to become this rough riding person, this person who's willing to kill, right? So it's interesting that even people who had means are brought to this point when they're brought over. And again, I think that's another allusion to Brexit. I really do. It kind of shows that the doesn't matter who you are or where you come from. If you're dropped somewhere and you don't have any support, that it can be impactful, right? It can make you into anyone can become that, you know. And so I like that scene. I like everything behind it. Even if we remove Brexit from it, it shows how people are just people, and they become who they are. He then forces Picard to fight. He wants to fight Picard in a duel because, you know, that's what you do. All right. We then have Gore, which I don't know completely how I feel about that. This may be a little bit much for kids. I'll give that. But he's going to attack Picard, so Legolas pulls what Legolas does. Legolas first asks him to stop and says, I don't want you to die. And dude doesn't listen. And so Legolas just decapitates dude. He just murders him in cold blood. I mean, it is not even, it's not right. See? You have headless guy. And he just drops down. It shows the lawlessness. It shows the degradation. And he gets away with killing him and nothing happens. It's weird as hell that a cafe in the middle of nowhere on the back end of Romulan space would have a sign in English saying Romulan only. Yeah, that's fair. I think that's fair. I never even thought about that, but that's fair. Legolas ain't got time for that. That's true. Legolas ain't got time. He ain't got time for all that. Ain't got time for that BS. Yeah, and Picard says, we abandoned you. I'm sorry. Starfleet abandoned you. Blah, blah, blah. I feel bad about myself. The sword also had blood on it. Green blood. And so then we have the trope that comes up. Hold on. He beams up. Then we have the trope that comes up, which is... You kill when I tell you to kill. You don't just needlessly destroy people. Yada yada yada. You can't go to murder. I'm your mentor. You know, you can't give in to the hate. No, Luke, don't go to the dark side. Blah 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 blah. Then we have dude's sister trying to have sex with him. I really don't care. Didn't even watch that part. I'll be honest with you. I have no idea what that conversation was about. Don't know. Don't care. She does strangle him, though. I know a couple of women who would enjoy that. We then have the fight between the fight was interesting. I'll say this. So they have the fight between Captain Manspreader and the Romulan ship. I'm waiting for the Romulan ship just to come up, because God forbid that they show it a lot. Oh, and he has a hologram that actually is the TAC officer. So he has multiple holograms, which I thought was interesting. But you have the Romulan ship, the old Romulan ship, versus the civilian ship. And what's occurring and what's interesting is that it's a three-way battle right now, effectively, between the Romulan ship, the planetary defenses, and the good guys, right? Captain Manspreader. So here's something that I really do think is cool and intriguing. The antique ship is putting up a fight, and it's causing some damage, but it really is having a hard time taking on even a civilian ship, which is exactly how it should be. This is a 23rd century vessel. And so even if you upgrade it, it doesn't have all of the advancements, or it couldn't have all of the advancements that you're having in the 25th century like they do, Star Trek Online aside. And so it's an even fight, maybe even advantage towards the civilian ship. Because even though this is quote-unquote a ship of war that they're fighting, it's 200 years old. And that does bring up an interesting question, though. How were they able to really do a lot with this unless that sector or that area was very... didn't have a lot of resources and the ships weren't really all that powerful? That would be the only way that could get around, because a modern Starfleet vessel or a modern Romulan vessel would just annihilate this bird of prey, because we're going to see in the future how easy it is to take down. But I actually like that. Again, we don't get a lot of information on the attackers. I wish they had stopped some of this to give us more info. And the fighting is just excellent. They discuss how they can't outrun it, but they can outmaneuver it. And then something intriguing that pops up that I'm waiting for. Come on. See, and he tries to... What I thought he was going to do is I thought he was going to get the ship to hit the planetary defenses and thus be saved that way. But there's actually another ship that comes up, and I'm waiting for that thing to pop up, if it will. I think my youngest just woke up, so that's a fun-filled adventure. She'll probably be up here in a second. Wait for it. Wait for it. The hell is this not? Come on. Wow, you guys get what you paid for in there. There it is. And we're going to see it right now. They repeated a couple of scenes. I didn't see that. There it is. So these two more modern ships attack and hit this older bird of prey in a specific point and absolutely just shear off one of the wings. They destroy it. Which, again, I'm not against this. I think this is exactly how this should work. It's a 23rd century vessel. It shouldn't really be able to put up too much of a fight. Am I actually sharing it? I am. And so I actually enjoy that. Though, even with it crippled, it's still able to put up somewhat of a fight, which I thought was intriguing. Captain Manspread has a hologram for every occasion. That guy's been working alone for too long. Yeah, that's true. Captain Manspreader has a tactical officer who's an EMH, a hospitality EMH. It's interesting and fun, I think. And then the reveal. Da 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 da. Oh, there is a part where Picard keeps trying to give commands, like open hailing or have him beamed aboard, and it's really not his ship anymore, and he has to correct himself. I like that. I thought that was cool. And then 7 of 9. Though it's not our 7 of 9. It is a more pimped up 7 of 9 that is not who she was before. I'm going to have to see who her character is. I do not like the change, honestly. But I guess we're just going to have to wait and see. And she was flying an Arrowhead, to be sure. How many years has she been away from the other 8? She actually met the other 8 before, and they all died because of something she did. If I remember one of the episodes. But yeah, that's basically the entire episode, the entire scene, as it were. The entire show. It was pretty dull, I guess. I think it was filler. I don't think they had to add a lot to it. And the next one looks interesting because they have to dress up as pirates, and they have to dress up as a pimp, is what one of them dresses up as. What? I'm trying to get to it. Why does it keep? Come on. There it is. Pirate and pimp. I'm not impressed with that. I don't know how I feel about it. How did she change? Her entire persona is different. Her entire persona is gone. In Voyager, one of the most important parts of Seven's arc was that she was a Borg, and she was always regal, very logical, and very stone-faced. And she talks about how that was so important to her, how what the Borg did to her, while horrific, gave her strength. It was a central tenet of her character. And now she's an ever-go-lucky, emotional woman, which is the exact opposite of who she was. And so it is character-breaking to me. But we'll have to see where they go with it. This is Star Trek Dungeons and Dragons Adventure in Space. I'd agree with that. I don't think Jerry Ryan was going to come back in the cat suit if she couldn't help it. Plus, it mentioned coming back, being in the cat suit doesn't. That's irrelevant. I wasn't talking about that. I don't care about that. I was more talking to the core persona of the character. So that was the show. Not horrible. Did feel like filler, I'll admit. But, we can't all be awesome. They can't all be awesome. It didn't change tone 100%, which I was happy about. What are you doing? Don't get weird. No. There we go. Oh, my youngest is awake now. Light! Blinded by the light. There we go. It's a little brighter. But horrifically out of focus. What the hell? There it is. Best episode yet? Don't know that I agree with that, but is Pirate Pimp supposed to be Scarface? I don't know. It was a collect every pieces to get show on the road episode. Yeah, I would say that. Again, filler. It's get everybody together. Get the band together, I don't know that I like that. Picard is apparently going to dress like a Maquis leader from a World War II France resistance holo novel. Maybe. So you guys have anything you want to add before we get off? Hey. My cat is content. I tell you what, let's do this. This is a good way to end it. Hold on. Wait for it. Watch them walk up just now. Good way to end it.
Hello.
Hey, we're live right now, so quite a few people can hear you. But I'm supposed to ask you about a Philly cheesesteak.
Okay.
Can you bring that over?
Totally.
So you say that, but I don't think I'm gonna get my Philly cheesesteak.
No.
Yeah, that's sad. All right. I'll call you back when people aren't online.
Okay, bye.
Bye. What's up, beautiful? Nothing. I didn't ask if something was wrong. So just so you know, if I say, what's up, beautiful, and I'm asking how you're doing, you saying nothing, like something has gone wrong, is not appropriate. It tells me that something is amiss, that there's trouble afoot. Is there trouble afoot?
Yes.
What'd you do?
I watched on the iPad and I'm going to go outside.
No, don't go outside. Not yet. It's too rainy.
No, I went outside.
No!
I'm going to do it.
They're not ignoring me.
I'm going to ignore you right now.
I'm going to ignore you right now. Kids these days. All right, guys. So that's what it was. She was hiding something. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I am going to go to the doctor now. I'll probably try to do something later today. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you on the next Lore Reloaded. Chicka chicka. Chicka chicka.